Says I should be live. There's a record button. We are live. We are the game reactionists. I am Rorschach.
And I'm Spectre.
And we're going to be talking about today's Silent Hill 2 story trailer. We're going to check out the release date trailer from earlier this year, check out the story trailer, watch an E3 2001 trailer, and just give our thoughts about, what we may or may not be concerned with. Is there hope for this remake? So let's just get right into it, man. Here's the release date trailer from earlier this year, about 2 or 3 months ago.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. I was just...
It's okay. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm kind of lost. I'm looking for Silent Hill.
I think you should stay away.
Now, I think you and I disagreed about Angela. You thought Angela here looked pretty awful.
Is it dangerous?
Maybe.
100%, yeah. I think it's,
and I'm not trying to say she's like, a beautiful woman,
really
but I think
dangerous or not.
Given her background,
she's at least
story,
at least 200, 250 pounds there. Yeah, I think she was, lost on her way to Happy Burger there. But
I mean, look at what she's gone through.
I guess so. Yeah, the binge eating would make sense then. But yeah, I mean, you have to remember, Angela in the original game had this very iconic look. She looked older than she was. She was, she was a teenager really in the game, but she had this kind of, older sort of look to her, and it was kind of, I guess for me, that kind of always suggested some degree her trauma, like it kind of aged her in a way.
Yeah.
I thought that was important, and obviously Team Silent thought that was important too, because, or whoever was behind the North American box art, because that was the cover of the game.
Which is weird, because I wouldn't consider her like a quintessential part of the game.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes it interesting, right?
She had a good story, like. She had a good.
You would think like if you were making the cover of the game, you'd put like maybe James on it, maybe Mary, maybe Maria.
And some cover arts did have those variations too. There were variations where you had those. I think it was the Restless Dreams version on the original Xbox.
No, that was Angela.
I know the Platinum. One of them had, or maybe it was not a Western release, but a different release altogether.
I don't know, because in Japan they had the that ominous save point was the cover of the Japanese version, and let's see, Silent Hill 2 European box art. Let me just double check. I don't think
so. That was while you double check that, fact check me on that. I could be wrong, but that was the release date trailer. So keep that in your minds. And we're comparing like the progression of this game since its original announcement and how things looked and where it's come. So this is today's story trailer.
the European box art has James on it.
I knew it. I was right. Suck it.
Did something happen to you?
Or wait, no, it's what's it
After we
called?
got separated in that long
I think it's supposed to be.
hallway?
No, it's not James. It's
Are you confusing me with
is that
someone
Maria
else?
or Mary? It's hard to say. It's like a little tiny sliver of the box art.
You were
Okay.
It's kind of weird how they did. It's weird how they did that.
Now, I just want to point this out. I'm going to pause this here. I gotta say, man, Maria looks rather seductive here.
Can you go back to like a still? Are you on a still frame?
I'm on a still frame right now.
Okay.
Like, she's in the middle of talking. She looks rather seductive. I would almost say menacing. She's got this grimace about her, and I wouldn't say she's
After we got
haunting me,
separated
but
in that long hallway.
I mean, she's got like this
Are you confusing me
cold,
with someone
piercing
else?
look right now. That's something I noticed when I
You
first
were always so forgetful.
saw this in the remake story trailer from today.
Remember that time in the hotel?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting into territory that's really hard to like objectively say, like, okay, this is why this is like, soul. It's that soul versus soulless argument, that's being bandied about a lot. Like this is, it's removed the soul of it. I just think that the original look of like Maria, for example, if we're going to focus on her,
You promised
There's
you'd
something
take me there
about
again
that look,
someday.
and I don't know. Maybe it's just kind of like
But you
Cameron
never
Diaz
did.
type of thing, because that's what it was inspired by.
Well,
But
I don't want to cut you
I'm
off, but
alone
let's
there,
hear
so-
the voice actors. We'll get
Go
into
ahead,
all
go
that.
ahead,
I do want to
yeah.
hear your arguments.
Just
Yeah.
put the gun to their head.
You
And maybe we
just
can
kill
go
someone
back
for
through the
way they
trailer
look
too.
at you.
I don't know why I can't see it anymore.
Am I not sharing it anymore? Did
I don't think so.
Oh boy.
I'm like,
I don't know
why
why
can't I
it
see
did that.
anything?
Let go!
I'm sorry, Laura, but I can't let you just run around this
Okay.
place. You might get hurt.
Now you should be
By
good.
what?
This place is different from what I remember.
Here's
Can
what
you
I
see it
can
now?
do. No, but here's what I can do.
Don't
I
think
can
she's
just pull up
here anymore.
everything on here.
This whole town.
You could always watch it on the channel.
Maybe
That's what I'm
I
gonna do.
Just get out of here.
Yeah, you're right.
You said you took everything.
You get that? Okay. Okay, now,
You
now I can
forgot
see
that
everything.
videotape we made.
How do you know about that? Aren't you Maria?
I'm not your Mary.
So you are Maria.
I am. If you want me to be.
How do you know about Mary?
You see
Ah,
it
yeah,
too?
you can't really get a good glimpse
me,
at her
it's always
face
like this.
there.
Doesn't matter who I am. I am here for you, James.
I mean, at the very least, you have to admit that she's still an attractive-looking
See?
female character in the video game. That is a win in and of itself with today's modern video games. Like,
Yeah, I guess so. I mean,
because I was
I
mostly
think-
worried about like all of these characters just being made to look like ugly, hideous abominations of their original characters in the original game, and even in the. They had the gameplay trailer from earlier this year. I should have played a little bit of that because I was a little bit concerned about Maria's model in that, and I thought she looked better in this. And maybe I will pull that up. But now, so we watched the release date trailer. We've watched the story date trailer. Let's take a step back in time. Let's check out the E3 2001 trailer. This one's about 6 minutes long. Back when trailers were that long, I suppose. I mean, I remember.
James, honey, did something happen to you? After we got separated in that long hallway? Are you confusing me with someone else? You were always so forgetful. Remember that time in the hotel? You said you took everything, but you forgot that videotape we made. I wonder if it's still there.
I'm satisfied with the voice acting too. Like hearing the original voice actor and having just heard the new voice actor for
not
Maria
your
at least.
yeah, and it's.
Are you taping again? Come on.
I mean, it just compare the faces, if nothing else. I mean, I just love the use of shadow on a face, and you can make a face look totally different with shadow.
You know what I heard?
Especially like drowning out the
It's
eyes,
airy.
like a shadow. Like, I mean, it's
Sacred
really.
place. I think
There's something to that. It's very
sure.
haunting in a way,
Yeah.
as opposed to just having her, sit there and just like kind of read a thing to you. It's like, I mean, it's like.
Take me again, James.
Yeah, but I find, see, and that's where I might disagree with you, is in the new one, she's got that cold, piercing stare looking at you. Like, that to me is like, I think of like how any of like my parental figures or family members, how they would just look at me with that cold stare when they were disappointed in me for something. Like,
Yeah, but is Silent Hill about that kind of visceral, directness, or is it more about subtlety? Is it about showing extreme violence and gore, or is it about suggesting it?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think as we're watching the trailer of the original right now, it's definitely column A and column B. I mean, what do you make of that scene? Is that subtle? Like, there's no subtlety to be had there.
Anyway, what do you mean?
I'm
Another
not sure what
perfect
scene you're-
example,
I'm like
she's-
30 seconds behind on your video.
Oh, okay.
So it's hard to reference things specifically here. But I'm just saying that, when you see things like bodies in Silent Hill, they're usually draped, they're usually covered. There's a suggestion of things. It's different. I mean, it's more.
I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is that it's both column A and column B. Like there are the story beats that are subtle, but then there, the violence, the gore. There are portions of it that it is like very obvious, like what they are trying to suggest.
What's a little girl like you doing here anyway?
Are you blind or something?
What's that letter?
None of your business. You didn't love
I mean,
me.
there's different examples you can use throughout the game, but I mean, it's in general, there's more of a suggestion than there is a directness to it. I think it's a motif in it, really. And I think a big part of this too, especially watching the original versus the modern story trailer, is so much of the original here is, I mean, this obviously we're watching pre-rendered cutscenes.
Yeah.
Which give it a very unique style and look. I mean, obviously this makes it look like way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
The downside to the downsides to pre-rendered cutscenes, as I'm assuming everything that we saw in the story trailer for the remake was not pre-rendered. It just looked like it was all in-engine.
Yeah.
So the downside to pre-rendered obviously is there's some it takes you have to render it. It takes a while to render it. So that can be extra time baked into development. You can't seamlessly transition from, at least as far as I'm aware, I don't know how you would from in-game to a pre-rendered cutscene. So there is a bit of a transition or a pause between the two. Yeah. Which I never minded.
No.
I mean, maybe it's because we grew up with games always doing that. That we would constantly switch between the two. I was a big Blizzard kid, so whenever I want, all Blizzard games.
All three of your cutscenes in your games were the pre-rendered.
For what's that?
I said all three of your cutscenes were pre-rendered in the Blizzard games.
All three of the cutscenes. There's a lot of cutscenes in those games.
I'm just making a joke.
Okay, I don't know what you're trying to say there. There's a ton of pre-rendered.
That those games weren't really like worried about the cutscenes or the narrative. It was more about the gameplay with those games.
No, I disagree with that completely. I think they were trying to tell a story as well too.
Maybe I never paid attention to it. I skipped through what I could.
Yeah, no, I mean they definitely were games first, but they definitely had a story to tell. People cared about the lore. There's dozens and dozens of books that are testament to that. And also it influenced World of Warcraft as well too. But yeah, I mean, like I said, really, this is I don't want to get too far off track, but I think that's kind of the main difference here. I think the pre-rendered scenes here in the original give it this really unique, level of detail and style to it. Mm-hmm. That you just don't see in the new one. It's where the whole I mean, maybe I guess maybe it depends on how you were introduced to these games, but for me, that's Silent Hill 2. That's I think that's the game to me, and to remove that it kind of becomes this soulless recreation of it. And I'm trying to imagine this as like an outsider, like someone completely unfamiliar with the games, and I mean, you put them side by side. That's good. I'm trying to imagine this as an outsider. If you've never experienced, and somehow you've never heard of Silent Hill before, or Silent Hill 2, you've never experienced these before, and I just feel like which one stands out to you more? Which one looks more intriguing? This one, I think the Silent Hill 2 remake looks like pretty much every other game now.
Well, it's I want to do a side by side of just these two scenes There'll be a couple seconds.
It's funny you're doing this because I had this thought like an hour ago. I'm like, what if I did a side by side gameplay? What if I just played both games when it comes out? Like I play the original Silent Hill 2 enhanced on one half of my screen, and then I do another. I do the remake on the other half of the screen. Just record that. That'd be kind of interesting.
Remember that time in the hotel?
Like directly compare the like do one section of the game, then hop over to the other one and do that section.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I just love it here.
But you forgot.
It's so peaceful.
I wonder if it's still there.
Yeah, even her posture is weird. Why is she sitting up straight like that?
I see that. You? After we got separated in that long hallway? Are you confusing me?
It looks like she's at like a job interview. When she's leaning over like that more, it's like it's more like
I'm getting like a Basic Instincts vibe, right? That was the one. What the hell's that actress's name? The infamous scene where she uncrossed her legs and her snatch.
Sharon Stone. Sharon Stone is referring to. Yeah,
That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting from here. And like, you know, and Maria. You know, Maria is supposed to be like this antithetical idea of what Mary was, right? And yet, even still, despite how she's dressed, she's still got that prim and proper posture here. Whereas the Maria in the remake, she's got the more laid back, like.
I think the best way I can describe this is the one on the left here in the remake. It looks like she's there for like a job interview. She's sitting up straight and like she's kind of like reading directly to you. The one on the right she's
slouched.
What she's looks like she's sitting up straight. They have her positioned weird in that chair. I don't know if they did that wrong or whatever, but
no, she's
positioned
completely
in that chair.
slouched. She's like leaned back into the chair. Are you the one on the right?
Yeah, like sitting up straight in the chair. Yeah, exactly. I'm saying the Maria in the original is kind of hunched over a little bit. She's leaning forward.
Ah, man, I don't know. I do not. I consider this more the remake. Maria is a more.
But I mean, just look at it too. I mean,
by the way, anybody watching, this is the kind we're gonna go into like all this goofy fucking nuanced stuff.
Oh
like,
yeah, this is nitpicky. This is minutia. You know,
exactly. And we're gonna try to remain focused here. We should have said this at the beginning too. There is a very big possibility that we will talk about spoilers. So I'll update the link in the channel, and then when I upload this video proper, because I don't think we've talked about any real spoilers as of yet.
I mean, I don't think you can spoil a 20-plus-year-old game at this point. I mean,
you know what? There is a new generation of gamers, man. I mean, if for people who may be coming into this new, if they've never played it anymore, I'm just gonna throw it out there. This is your spoiler alert. So just be aware of spoilers. If you've never played this game, never got a hold of a PS2 when you were a kid, these games aren't exactly cheap to buy for PlayStation 2 anymore. Yes, you could emulate them if you have a PC, but this is your spoiler warning. So I generally agree with you. I don't think you can spoil, games that have been out 10, 20, 30 plus years. But, I mean, when we were born, there were games we didn't play either, and we came back to later on in life. It happens. Anyway, getting back to Maria here.
See, the more I look at this, the more I like the original. It's just in every way. I mean, even the bed frame looks better. It's like this kind of like a hospital bed type of thing, which fits in with the lore of the game and everything. That's good. This old timey kind of like hostel bed. But I think what's going on here is in the original here with Maria, it was, she is a, here, good thing you mentioned the spoilers, because this is a spoiler. Obviously, she is a fantasy character. She is an amalgamation type of character. She's a fantasy.
She's the antithesis of Mary, who is James's deceased wife.
And of course, the inspiration for this, character, of course, there was two obvious direct inspirations for Maria's appearance. One, of course, was Cameron Diaz, who was, a very extremely attractive actress, and that she was in her prime back in the time when this game was being developed. She looks almost identical to Cameron Diaz. And then her outfit, do you recognize her outfit?
Is that the same outfit from There's Something About Mary that Cameron Diaz wore? Okay.
No. Christina Aguilera.
Oh yeah, the leopard print. Okay.
Yeah.
Close enough.
So, very, very. I can't remember what award show or whatever what she wore to, but she's an amalgamation of these two very attractive, iconic fantasy women in a way, larger than life women. So it's just fits so perfectly as an inspiration for a fantasy version of his wife, essentially. So I think there's a lot going on there. That's interesting. I think it's very kind of clever in a way, and it fits with the story of the game very well. Even just even if we brush all that aside, though, I love the lighting in this scene for the original. I mean, look at the use of the shadow of darkness, and it's not all just the rendering part of it too. These were deliberate choices. I like the shadow in her eyes and the that look. They use that to great effect, of course, in the opening scene with James, where you can't really even see his eyes. It's kind of like this dark, vacant, like you.
Is James looking at you through the mirror?
Actually, he is. Yeah.
Oh, I've read that's been debunked, and he actually isn't.
And
that was from Team Silent themselves.
I think he is. I believe, but I can't remember. I'd have to play the game again and punch up the gamma. But or do something with that.
Well, I mean, you're going to be doing it soon, right? Like,
I might actually do just because and I'll let you speak then. But I think I might actually do that just because it might be kind of unique. I might do a side-by-side playthrough. I'll just put like I said, I'll literally just cut the screen in half. I'll have Remake on one side and the original on the other side, and I'll play through each section of the game. Like I'll get up to the first, boss, and the Remake, and then do the same thing in the original or vice versa, and just directly compare the two. You can have both of them in one video, and I'll split it into parts or whatever. And you can't get more direct a comparison than that.
That sounds like a lot of effort. I mean, we could make it easier.
Not really.
We can make it easier, and you play through a portion of the Remake, and I do that same portion, or you play through a portion of the original, I do the same portion on the Remake.
However you want to do it. I mean,
because I plan on streaming the Remake for the channel, and we can figure that out later.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we spent enough time on Maria. You've given your takes on her original look. I think she's still got pretty much the same outfit. She's got the leopard prints. It's not as obvious as it is in the right, but if you look closely, you can see the leopard print of the skirt in the Remake. Showing a little bit more cleavage. She's got the tattoo here, more of that seductive look. The slightly, cutesy, punky style pink tips within her hair. She's just really got that. If I'm James, I see this woman.
Yeah, they really ramped up the danger hair a little bit there, right? I mean, compared to the original, where it was like it's just very much just the tips before.
But if I'm looking at this woman, like, oh my God, yeah, I wanna sleep with that. Like, yeah, I will take that all day, every day. Even the hospital bed though, like, I gotta disagree.
I don't know, man. I think I would take Cameron Diaz in her prime, man. Are you kidding me?
I never thought Cameron Diaz was attractive, if I'm being honest.
In her prime? I'm not saying like today.
I never thought she was attractive. I've seen her in like the Charlie's Angels movie, and There's Something About Mary. She was okay. Cameron Diaz in The Mask, I would take. That was.
She had a great look in that movie.
She had a fantastic look.
Put her up on the screen so people can actually know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'll do Cameron Diaz
from The Mask.
Like, oh yeah, right here. I thought she looked the best here. Oh, and yep, that black and white dress. Oh yeah. But yeah, I didn't think she was all that attractive in anything other than this film. I don't want the dress. So, but yeah, there's your reference. There's the inspiration of Cameron Diaz. I mean, you can really see the original inspiration. She always gave me like a scarecrow vibe, outside of the mask. Like she just has this this wide mouth and, lanky looking broad in Charlie's Angels and There's Something About Mary. This was her in her prime in The Mask. But anyway, before we turn this channel into a smut channel, so
what's wrong with that?
Well, we're on the wrong platform. We got to go to Twitch for that.
Right. Oh yeah.
So I don't know, man. I think she looks way more seductive in the remake, and I'm not discounting. I gotta preface this too. I'm not saying that I didn't like how the characters looked in the original. I'm a big fan of the original. I that was a game. Silent Hill 2 and Metal Gear Solid 2 were the two games that I played through time and time and time again on my PlayStation 2. Those discs got a lot of wear and tear on them. I would beat them and then play them again. Beat them and then play them again. All I'm simply saying is that I don't hate this character model. I think she looks fine. I can't say whether or not she looks better than the original. All I can say is we got a very seductive look here. She's looking at you with those seductive eyes. She's, talking to you. She's got that menacing grin, those cold, piercing eyes, which is pretty haunting to me. I don't hate it. So now that
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the smoothness of the features and everything, but she looks older than the original one. I bet if you were to run these through AI, it would say the one on the right is younger.
Maybe. I don't know.
I would put money on that.
I mean, James himself looks older. I always consider these characters to all be within their 30s, early, anywhere from 30 to 40 anyway, So I guess this one on the right could pass as a 28-year-old. So she might best her by a couple years. I don't think she looks that much younger. Women looked different back then too, right? Especially nowadays, compared to nowadays. At least she doesn't have blue hair. I can tolerate the pink tips. She doesn't.
Yeah, that's cute. I think if you do it in a subtle way, that's fine. Instead of dyeing your whole hair, head like you're in Mad Max or something.
Right.
It's but yeah, no. I mean, I know we're nitpicking this like crazy and everything, but that's the whole point of this.
Let's get.
What about Eddie? Should we skip forward to Eddie?
Yeah, we can skip forward to Eddie. Let me find what Eddie looked like because they showed him in the E3 2001 trailer. Let me just find him here. Oh, here we go. Great shot there. So that's Eddie in the original. So we'll get a.
You can't just kill someone.
Here we go. Okay, so similar shots here. I considered Eddie to be a rather grotesque individual in the original game. He was just portrayed as a fat blob of a character. And I think they got that right in the remake. He's significantly fatter, side by side in the remake. This one's a horse apiece for me. I could really. I don't think one looks better than the other. I think in terms of his story, his character development, he looks appropriate. I'm sure you disagree, but.
I don't feel as strongly about this one as I do about Maria. I think Maria is an objective downgrade. I can't see any argument otherwise. For that one, I think that's an objective downgrade. I think this one is just going for something different. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about him being kind of this exaggerated level of fat. I mean, maybe they were going for some level of I don't know, realism to some degree. This is probably, I mean, sadly, this is kind of what the average, we know people that look like this.
Yeah.
Worse even. Worse even, yeah. So but I don't know. Maybe this is the clash of cultures here. This is like, okay, the Western version of it here is more realistic, but the Japanese version is more idealized. Like this is Japanese fat, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Where everyone over there is like 120 pounds.
Right.
But but I mean. I don't know. I guess for this one, I mean, it's kind of a coin toss. I do, of course. My bias is for the original because I think it has more of it stands out more to me compared to this one. I feel like I've seen this remake character before.
Well, yeah, because we know him in real life.
Exactly. Yeah, good point. Yeah, we've literally seen him. We've literally seen people that look almost exactly like this.
You know what? Go ahead and finish your thought real quick. I meant to do something else. I want to compare voice actors as well, because I know that's been a big point of contention for both of us, really. I think I will say you have been far more critical than I have been. I have tried to treat this as being cautiously optimistic, and I could be wrong, but I get the vibe from you that you're just completely pessimistic about this, that there was going to be no redeeming factor of this remake at all. That's the vibe I've I've actually already complimented it. I think the environments themselves, I think the world itself looks great. It's kind of really cool in a way to see this game in modern, with modern graphics 25 years or so later. That's actually really cool. Not 25, but close to 25 years later. May as well be, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really cool to see this old game kind of be updated in that way, at least. I just think everything else about it is bad. But but at the same token, though, I feel like it's all going to be fixed. I know for mods, because I mean, how hard is it going to be to just grab the sound files of Silent Hill 2 and just port them, and just plug them into this one? Especially if you had the enhanced
edition, right? So
yeah, and then there's going to be some crazy modders out there that sit down and spend like literally 400 hours per character. Updating them, change them to make them look like how they should look.
Right.
They'll basically do the development of the game for them, and it's and
we can talk about that too. But yeah, I mean, Bluebird team. So, I want to do this real quick. I want to do an Eddie voice actor comparison. So I'm going to play the original E3 release. I think he's got some dialogue lines. So let's listen closely.
Just put the gun to their head.
So I don't know if you could really hear it. Maybe I'll have to turn it up. But he does just put the gun to their head. Pow. I always liked him. And now
I can't hear anything on my end, but I know those lines so well. I can remember them.
So I'm sure you like even the way he says it, his tone, his inflection. Like I'm sure you know that. So I'm gonna play the remakes now.
Just put the gun to their head.
And like,
you can't just kill someone because the way they looked at you.
It's similar-ish. Like I don't hate the new voice actor for Eddie. It's still kind of that like deranged moment, because this is at the point of the game where he definitely has admitted to you that he's killed somebody, if I remember correctly. Because this is like before you take him on in the proper boss fight against him. So this is where like he's confessed that he has murdered somebody, and how easy it was for him to do so. Am I mistaken, or am I not remembering that scene correctly?
Correct. So that's essentially what he's doing. So it's implied, for your meetings with Eddie that he kind of ups his game, and he kills he kills I think it was a dog at first, and then he shoots somebody, but then he starts killing people. And,
well, I think it's theory though, because when you first meet him, and maybe I'm mistaken, but don't you meet him in one of the hotel rooms, and in the fridge of the hotel room that you meet him in,
there's a body
in there? Okay, so it's implied that he actually murdered that person, but it's never admitted. Let's go back to Maria here. Let's listen in on the original Maria, her voice actor. I'm gonna pump up the volume on hers, so we can hear properly.
Did something happen to you after we got separated in that long hallway? Are you confused? confusing me with someone else? You were always so forgetful. Remember that time in the hotel? You said you took everything, but you forgot that videotape we made. I wonder if it's still there. I'm not your Mary.
I do actually like that portion too. Like, this is where she really, like, before she's still kind of like this, you know, nice, approachable woman, even though she's the antithesis of Mary. But then in this moment, this is where I would agree with you. This is where she looks far more sinister than the remake version. Because she just totally, it's like a 180. You know, she goes from smiling and grinning and almost being happy to be talking with you to all of a sudden, like, I'm fucking done with you type attitude, you know?
And it's of course, yeah, because it's a, you know, it's supposed to be, you know, she's oscillating between this persona and Mary, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, it's done very, very well. Like, this is I'd say arguably the most important cutscene in the game.
So, and then we'll get some lines from original Mary as well.
Are you taping again? Come on. I don't know why, but I just love it here. It's so peaceful. You know what I heard? This whole area used to be a sacred place. You said you took everything, but you forgot that video.
So one thing I wanted to correlate here is in the original, the voice actress, she does change her inflection ever so slightly. It's kind of like a blink and you miss it type moment, right? Like, you can hear when she's voice acting for Mary, it's more of an upbeat inflection of her voice, and then when she's Maria, it's kind of more of like a more serious tone, not quite as upbeat. Things of that nature, and I point that out because I want to see if the remake captures that at all. So,
and it's important, and it's so important that it has that too, because it needs to capture both dynamics, because that
two different personalities.
It's yes and no. It's not really two different personalities. It's more so it's two different sides of this person, because it's representing this conflict that led to James ultimately, you know, we already talked about spoilers, of ultimately killing her, is because it was this push and pull. You know, if you remember the long hallway scene at the end of the game, it's a mix of that kind of push and pull. You can kind of see that dynamic that they had, where he comes to her and she's angry with him. Because she sees herself as hideous, and she's becoming, because whatever disease she had, I don't think it was based on a real disease, but whatever disease she had, her appearance was, you know, becoming decrepit, which happens with a lot of illnesses, of course.
Yeah, I think it was just like meant to be like an innocuous.
It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what it was, but a play is her appearance was waning, and it's this kind of push and pull, and she's oscillates between that, you know, that kind of aggressive, you know, I don't want you to be here, blah blah, to wait, you'll be, you know, it's this kind of this dynamic, and it's the you know, this push and pull. It's not easy to kind of pull, you know, to kind of do that
right
effectively as an actor.
All right, so let's do the remake now, because we didn't. So now we're gonna listen to Remake Maria in the beginning of the story trailer that came out today.
Something happened to you after we got separated in that long hallway? Are you confusing me with someone else? You were always so forgetful. Remember that time in the hotel?
Are you taping again? Come on. I don't know why, but I just love it here. It's so peaceful.
So I will say, regardless of how you feel about the difference of voice actress, at least this voice actress does that same thing. You know, when she's portraying Maria's lines, that condescending, sinister tone, and then when she's doing Mary's lines, you know, it's more of a softer tone to it. You know, we can skip the argument of which one is better between the original and the remake. At least they've captured that difference.
They have that difference. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, but I think, I don't know. There's maybe part of the magic here that we don't want to overlook too is that the voice actors that they had originally for Silent Hill 2 were, I think, largely non-voice actors. They were not professionals, essentially. And that was a very deliberate choice, at least if we're going to go off of what I believe Team Silent said in the past, what Guy Seehee has said, voice actor of James. That's been was a deliberate choice. And I think it gives it a degree of, here's a big word for you, verisimilitude.
Ooh, I like that. I like big words.
There's a sense of like I just feel more connected to these people. They feel more real to me. Like these are actually real people. They're not just characters in a video game being voice acted by professional voice actors that do this all the time. Sure. Like I think like in the HD version they did like one of the replacement voice. Was it like Troy Baker or something they
Troy
had?
Baker.
Like
I mean he's
the most voice actor that ever voice acted.
Yeah.
You know, I mean I think, like I said, I don't want to. I'm basically just quoting Guy Seehee when he said, like, you know, he said like he listened to him, like Guy Seehee when he listened to the new voice, he's like, yeah, they sound great. They sound like their TV commercials, you know, you know. And it's like, you know, and I'm like, I think that's like a direct quote from what he said, and I'm like that is so right. They sound like they're these fake, you know, like they sound like they're selling me a product on TV, like they're these professional actors, and that takes away from the sense of, you know, like these are real people with real problems and real feelings. And you know, I mean obviously it's just a video game, it's a work of fiction, but it kills that sense of immersion, I think, for me with these I'm not saying that, I'm not making a blanket statement, I'm not saying it's a monolith, I'm not saying all the new voice actors are bad. I'm sure some of them are completely serviceable, but I think for the ones you know, for the main principal characters here, I've just not seen anything where I'm like, okay, this is definitely better than what we had before. I think in particular for James too, like I see he had this voice that was, you know, how can I say this? It's really hard for a guy in a horror story to sound vulnerable. If that makes sense.
I was gonna say, like, he sounded the original voice actor, he sounds soft. And I don't mean that in like a condescending, you know, he's a bitch type character or anything like that.
It's not a masculine thing.
He's got a softer tone about him. He's kind of wading through the waters of what he's experiencing himself, like, because in his psyche is trying to block out his actions of what he's done to Mary, and so he's just trying to be, you know, this well portrayed individual. And I will say, I don't think the voice actress for Maria and Eddie in the remake line up with what you're saying with regards to the voice actor sounding very voice actorish. I will say I do get that vibe from the voice actor of James. He's definitely a person playing a character, whereas the James in the original was somebody who's like, this could be one of my friends.
It was more organic and it's not that, authentic. And it's not to say that, like, okay, if you have a professional actor, like, then it's automatically bad. I think one of the main inspirations for Silent Hill, and I'm sure, I don't know if it's a movie you've ever seen or not, or are familiar with, but it's a horror film called Jacob's Ladder.
Oh yeah.
And it's starring Tim Robbins, of course.
I was about to say, it was the guy from Shawshank, right?
Correct. Yeah, he's known for Shawshank. He's obviously, Tim Robbins has done a ton of movies. He's a very accomplished actor, but I like him. Probably my favorite movie, even more so than Shawshank, that features him is Jacob's Ladder, because it's a horror movie. It's a, you know, a supernatural horror movie, and he does a very effective job, I believe, that he's terrified of what's happening to him.
Yeah.
And that's not easy, like I said, there's a reason why, if you think of horror movies, what do you think of? You think of like a girl. You think of a young girl being stalked by something.
Sure.
It's because of course it's natural. Of course, a vulnerable woman being stalked by a predator. What's more natural than that? You completely understand the terror. You know, it's harder for a male to kind of lead in that setting and still be believable as like he's horrified and he can't just overpower his enemy.
Yeah. All right, so now I think this is one we might have talked about before, with regards to our sweet little girl, and I always forget her name.
Laura,
thank you. Let's see. I think this might have this. So we're going back to the original trailer here. I'm gonna see if she's got any.
What's a little girl like you doing here anyway?
Huh? Are you blind or something?
What's that letter?
None of your business.
So definitely has the attitude of a snarky little girl in the original, right? I think the remake got it too. Let's see.
Let go!
I'm sorry, Laura, but I can't let you just run around this place. You might get hurt.
Hurt by what?
I mean, yeah. I don't know about you. I think it's kind of more of the same.
Yeah, I mean, and Laura is a minor character, but also an important character in a way because she represents I guess you could say, the path forward for James in a way.
Yeah.
She's sort of a what's that?
His redemption.
His redemption in a way, yeah. She sort of she's this adoptive daughter of sorts.
Yeah.
And the good ending of the game is leaving Silent Hill, putting the guilt, transcending the guilt that he's experienced and moving on with his life, and Laura accompanies you. Every other ending is either completely not accepting what happened or denying it. That's the only real good ending in the game.
Yeah. And unfortunately, yeah, I wish I could get a better shot here. This is the best look they gave us of Angela. This is the famous burning stairwell scene, which, I'll be honest, of all the things that happen thematically within Silent Hill 2, I've never understood the burning stairwell scene. Like, is that supposed to be representative of Angela basically accepting her own hell that she has to live with?
Yeah, it's I mean, there's different ways you could kind of interpret it. It's an important line that she says there to kind of describe, because James asks about it. About the burning, everything's on fire, and she says, "For me, it's always like this."
Okay.
You could interpret it, like you could sort of say like this is how she sees Silent Hill, maybe from her perspective.
Gotcha.
The spiritual power of the town is manifesting as this burned, and in a way, I guess thematically that's very appropriate because what does burning do to you? It leaves this scar, this permanent damage to you, these permanent scars on you. If you've ever seen burn victims, and in a way, she's been psychologically and physically kind of burned in that way. So I mean, you could say there's elements of that to it. Maybe the fire could also represent rage to some degree. It's also implied that she's also a killer in a way.
Yeah.
She killed her,
brother and her dad.
Yeah. So I mean, I think there's different ways you can interpret it. But ultimately, just like Eddie, she just like Eddie's his kind of view of Silent Hill kind of not influences, but kind of plays off of James's in a way as well too. So it's I think that's kind of my view of it. I mean, you could probably interpret it a lot of different ways.
Okay. Well,
but if it's a her theme of suicide, we whenever we see her, I mean, we meet her in a graveyard,
right?
We see her, when she looks like she's about to kill herself, which you have that scene pulled up too. It fits with that theme.
Well, let's get into. I mean, we spent a lot of time breaking down these trailers. Let's get into a little bit more here. I don't know about you. I got a little bit more time. I do want to, for the channel, Black Myth, I think, is officially out now. So I'll be streaming.
I'm very
that tonight
curious
as
to see how that is actually.
Monkey Man, monkey.
I'm really
man.
concerned though about it. I hear there's a major lack of diversity.
Well, I hope that's not the case.
You know, I mean, I think you might have to return it if there is, you know, but.
Well, I'll have to check Sony's return policy. It is a digital-only game. It's the game that I broke my one rule. You know, similar to Batman, I have one rule, and it's to not purchase digital copies of video games. But I broke my one rule on this game. But let's talk about this. Silent Hill 2 remake. We broke down. First off, all right, let's do it this way. Compared to what we saw earlier this year to what we saw today, what are you thinking just in terms of like the characters themselves, the portrayal of those characters, even the environment of the game itself? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll give my thoughts. I'll kind of give my final thought, you know, my Jerry Springer final thought on everything here right away too, if that's okay. Sure. Well, I mean, comparing this to the new one, I think the major thing that sticks out is the portrayal of Maria in the famous prison cell scene, and I think I'm going to be honest, I think they botched it pretty hard. I don't think it's. I think if you compare the two side by side, even if you're a layman looking at this, you've never played either game, I think you can easily be like, okay, this one looks creepy and well acted, and the other one looks like, okay, this looks like every other game I've ever played. There's nothing special or unique about this. So that's how I see it. So that's the main thing there. We also saw, I think, a good look at Eddie for the first time, the new remake Eddie, which, I mean, like you said, we both kind of are like, whatever, I think they went in a different direction for it. I prefer the original Eddie. But I'm not like offended by that necessarily. But those, I mean, that's the major difference. I still say, like I said, for anyone that says I'm just doing nothing but bash the game, I think the environments themselves look pretty great. I think I like seeing these things in these these higher res new graphics. It's really kind of cool to see these older games kind of brought to life with modern tech and everything. But at the same time, like I mean, that doesn't make it better necessarily. It just makes it different, I guess. And it's of course. So I mean, we're both going to be playing the game very shortly here, but I still stand behind what I said originally, which is I really think this would have gone better if they had remade Silent Hill 1. And I just don't think there would have been as much fan backlash. I think very much like Resident Evil 1, which we both agree is a fantastic remake, probably one of the best remakes ever done.
It's still, I would say Resident Evil 1 is the best video game remake still to this day. Resident Evil 4 remake being a close second, in my opinion. Until Metal Gear Solid Delta comes out. Because I gotta tell you, that one looks like it's gonna fucking take the cake. But continue with your thought.
Yeah, and I was about to wrap it up. I mean, it's I think if they would have gone to Silent Hill 1, that was done with very blocky graphics. I don't think it's as well remembered. I mean, it's classic, of course, but I don't think it's as well remembered as Silent Hill 2 is, where it's just this classic work of art essentially. So I think if you would have remade Silent Hill 1, you wouldn't have really stepped on any toes. That would have been interesting. It would have been interesting and probably a lot more useful to update that for modern times, because it was a PlayStation 1 game and it does look pretty rough if you go back and actually play it. Yeah. So I think that would have benefited.
That still came out pretty early on in the PlayStation 1 life cycle anyway, didn't it?
I thought it was like 98 or 99.
Was it that
PlayStation 1 came out. PlayStation 1 came out in 94. Let's see. PS1 launch was into Japan. It was December 3rd, 94. Silent Hill 1 was
February of 99. Wow, that was pretty late in the life cycle. Okay.
Yeah, so 5 years in. So that was really stretching the console to its limits.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been interesting to see a remake of that. I think the voice acting in that game is not quite as fondly remembered. It's kind of memeable. It's actually very much like Resident Evil 1, where you remember the voice acting because it's funny and Jill Sandwich and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Goofy. It's kind of like that. So I think if they would have done that, I would have been pretty receptive to that. But we all know why they did Silent Hill 2, because Silent Hill 2 became popular. It's the breakout title of the series. It's the most popular. It's the one that's considered the masterpiece, greatest of all time. So that was the one that they were like, okay, this is going to move the most sales. It was a business decision, not a artistic decision. That's my opinion of it.
Okay.
So, I think for most people, anyone watching this, my recommendation is go ahead, watch our playthrough of it. See our thoughts of it. You also see us play through the original as well too. We're gonna do that in some format as well, so you can directly compare both versions of the game. And then after you've done that, after you've watched through that on our channel and you've seen other reviewers you trust or whatever, then make your decision to buy it. I don't think this is something that you would buy day one unless you are a channel like ours that's doing a review, or you're just a diehard fan. You love the original and you really need to see kind of this spin on it, essentially. So.
I think that's ultimately what's going to happen is the diehards like you, myself, or anybody familiar with the series, this is definitely going to be a day one purchase, either out of morbid curiosity or hopefulness that it does the original service. I'll give my final thoughts here. For me, the worst thing of the remake, more than anything else, is the fact that it's a third-person over-the-shoulder game. That is the worst thing. I don't really care too much about the voice actors. Guy Seehee and all the original cast. Whatever. They're flashes in the pan. I'm okay with them being replaced. If Bloober Team were to have their way, they would have done it with fixed camera angles. This was a decision by Konami to make it a third person over the shoulder to try to still attain the same amount of success as the third person Resident Evil games. Konami saw Resident Evil 4 Remake, saw how successful that was, and I guarantee that was a decision for Konami to say, we're going to remake Silent Hill 2, and we're going to do it the same way that Resident Evil 4 did it. Character models for me, we got Mary up here on screen. They both look fine. I'm not offended by the remakes. I'm not, the original, she already looked fine as it is. Same thing with Eddie here. Yeah, he's a little bit more exaggerated. I think this is a representation of the times. America is, especially America, we are much fatter now than we were in 2001. So I really think that's what it is. I don't agree with you on Maria. I staunchly disagree with you. I think she looks...
Did they change? I didn't really look at it closely. Did they change Mary's outfit?
Mary's outfit? No, she looked it looked like the exact same outfit, honestly. Let me find her here. Where did she go? Here's a good shot of her in the remake. I mean, it's pretty much it's the exact same outfit.
Okay, so at least they kept that.
Yeah. I staunchly disagree with you on Maria though. Just this opening scene, you mentioned the hospital bed. This hospital bed in the remake looks far more uncomfortable, unsavory. This is clearly a place designed to make it look like you wouldn't want to stay there. I would prefer to stay in the bed on the right than I would in the bed on the left. I mean, the bed on the left it makes prison beds look like 5-star hotels. It's even got this metal cot here, and it doesn't even
I don't know.
like
There's something about it that looks more like there's something. It just comes off as, maybe I'm just thinking about this in a different way, but it just comes off as like a kind of like a medical bed or like a hospital bed in a way, which is appropriate in a way because there should be references and flashes to the overarching story of the series, which we forget about a lot, which is about the spiritual power of the town, the cult, Alessa, and everything that's going on there. So there should be references to that. Actually, that's one thing I'm going to be really curious about too. Are they going to keep there's a Silent Hill 4 reference in Silent Hill 2. I wonder if they're going to keep that in.
I'm sure they will.
I don't know why they wouldn't. But
all it was a file, and it mentioned Walter Sullivan, right?
Correct. Yeah, it talks about his murders. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they will. You know, if they don't, honestly, if they don't, I don't think I would care about something like that.
I wouldn't care, but I mean, this is something we're supposed to be nitpicking. Just like when you play Metal Gear, I'm sure you're gonna, every blade of grass that's out of place, you might be like, okay, why did they do that?
I don't know about that. Like with regards to Metal Gear Solid Delta, that looks like it's gonna be a true 1-to-1 remake. They're not changing anything. They didn't re-record any lines. They're literally using the same recorded lines from the original release. All they did was update the graphics and then update the gameplay mechanics themselves.
That's the nutty thing too, is this same company at the same time can develop 2 remakes,
but it's not Konami. Konami's not developing Silent Hill 2 remake.
No, I'm not. I'm obviously I'm saying they're not directly developing it. Blooper's developing it, and then whoever the hell is developing, Delta.
I think Konami is doing Delta.
So Konami's doing that directly then.
Yeah.
But still, it's like, I mean, but they're still the ones that own the IP. They're the ones that oversee everything. They're still the
publishers.
The buck stops with them.
Right.
They're the ones that are deciding everything.
Yeah, Konami is the studio developing Metal Gear Solid Delta.
Blooper has to come and report to them and be like, okay, this is what we're working on. Do you like this?
Well, and that's the thing. That's a big controversy because there was the infamous gameplay trailer, the first gameplay trailer that came out for Silent Hill 2 Remake, and everybody hated it. And developers of Blooper came out and said, we did not want to release this trailer in this fashion. We were told to do so by Konami. So Konami is definitely forcing Blooper to do Silent Hill 2, because I did play Blooper's The Medium, okay? And when I first played that, this is before we even established as a channel, but when I first played that, it was fixed camera angles, and I even said to myself, I was like, wow, this is almost like Blooper's interview to do a Silent Hill game, because it was very reminiscent of Silent Hill. There were mixed reviews on it. I never finished it, but from what I played, I was like, it's fine. It definitely you could definitely see the Silent Hill inspiration behind it. Fixed camera angles, all of that jazz. And according to, rumor and speculation, Blooper really wanted to make Silent Hill 2 Remake a 1-to-1 remake where they just had a fresh coat of paint. And then that's what it should have
been, instead of doing what they've been trying to do for the last 20 years, which is have, a Western developers come in and meddle with things and ruin everything, and I mean, plus I think it's kind of funny. I mean, they, of all the development teams they picked the one called Blooper. I mean, if it quacks like a duck, I mean, like all the names you could have picked for your development team.
Yeah. Where is Blooper based? They're a Polish team, aren't they?
I think it's Poland. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they did Layers of Fear. I did play through Layers of Fear, and that was fine. It's horror-ish, I guess. It's one of those games where it's kind of like you walk around and interact with things. There's not really a whole lot to it, but it was interesting enough. So honestly, I always thought, like, if you're going to do a remake of a series like Silent Hill, you'd have to pick, like, a no-name studio. And Blooper was probably the best bet, because at least they had experience in developing horror adjacent games. But getting back to Maria, I got to completely disagree with your synopsis of Remake Maria versus original. The original I appreciate because she is the original. She's the inspiration. She is, without her, there'd be no remake at all, along with James. But, I mean, you think of what the character of Maria is supposed to represent, the sexy, seductive version of Mary that James wanted and he would want to have his way with. I mean, she encapsulates that 1,000%. I mean... respectfully, you're lying to yourself if you're going to try to say she doesn't. You know, it's okay if you prefer the original version over this new one, but this new one still captures that representation. There's no denying that. And getting back to my final thoughts, I think ultimately the worst thing about this remake is still the gameplay direction. For me, the environment, much like you, the environment looks fantastic. I'm excited to see the world of Silent Hill in today's modern standards. You know, and the characters, I think it'll be fine. The one thing I'm still concerned about is how the actual narration of the story itself is going to play out. You know, are we going to be showing James as this, you know, killer of this woman who acted like a bitch? Or are they gonna just villainize him from the start? Because there's a bit of nuance with him in the original game, right? Like, he's kind of like, yeah, he's a villain, but at the same time, his wife treated him like shit while he was trying to care for her. A person can only take so much. You know what I mean? Like, are they gonna stick with that, or are they gonna just go all in and like, nah, he's the bad guy from the get-go and shame on him? You know, that's what I'm more curious about.
I'm sure that's probably something they'll update. You know, this will turn into like a Lifetime movie where he's the evil man. You know,
we'll see, man. I mean, there's definitely a pendulum shift. But yeah, I mean, that's been talking about Silent Hill 2 remake and the story trailer specifically for over an hour. You've given your final thoughts. I've given my final thoughts. This game comes out October 7th, right? Right in time for Halloween.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So right in time for spooky season. There will be gameplays of the original and the remake in some fashion. Spectre and I will coordinate how that works amongst ourselves, and we encourage you guys to check us out. We're hoping to do to keep up with new releases and gameplays of new releases. I'm going to be switching over to Black Myth. I'll probably play the first hour or two of that, and then probably have to get my refund if the lack of diversity has any truth to it. So that's it. Anybody who has been watching, thank you so much for watching. I will re-upload the video too, so you can watch it in your spare time. Let us know in the comments below. Are you looking forward to Silent Hill 2 Remake? If not, why? And if you are, why? We definitely like to engage with the commenters. We've gotten them in the past. That'll do it for me with the Game Reactionists. I am Rorschach.
I'm Spectre.
And thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.